Welcome to Hound Hour, where we delve into the shadows of Asia's most chilling crime stories. In this episode, we uncover the infamous Nth Room case, a digital nightmare that shook South Korea from 2018 to 2020. Using the most commonly used Telegram app, a series of secret chat rooms were discovered with explicit and violent content that was viewed by over 260,000 audiences. The Nth Room case revealed the depths of human depravity, with content involving the sexual exploitation of women and minors, including child pornography. The victims ranged from as young as 18 months old to their late 20s. The case will discuss the violent and triggering details of the crime. Viewers' discretion is advised. The Doctor's Room. It started in November 2019. A teenage student, probably in her 20s, suddenly was invited to an anonymous Telegram chat room while she was sitting in for her class. The link directly brought her down to the room with over 300 members, which kept increasing by every second. 3 texts dropped off to the chat box, one stating "Welcome to the Doctor's Room" with her name on it, the second with her picture, and the third containing every brief detail of her existence. Hundreds of people now had access to her home address, social security number, social media details, her school, everything. The rapid heartbeats almost clogged her eardrums as the final text dropped: "Send us a video within the next minute or we will be sending people down to your exact location." Administered by the anonymous leader, the Doctor, these Telegram chat rooms were an entirely different dimension from regular groups. Disguised as just another spam page for mere adult content, these rooms were categorized into sections. Almost every sinful thought that could be organized was found there: torture, blind games, child exploitation, the list never ends.
얘네들을 진짜 죽이고 싶다, 내가 얘네들을 죽이고 진짜 감옥에 가고 싶다라는 생각이 들 정도로 걔네에 대한 분노가 엄청났던 것 같아요.
신고를 했던 게 2019년 7월 중순이었어요. 그때 당시에 사이버 수사팀에 있던 수사관
많이 놀랐어요. 저뿐만 아니고 보시는 분들마다 다 소화를 못 하시더라고요. 자기 트라우마 생길 것 같다고. 근데 그 정도로 심각했습니다.
소라넷에서 있었던 성착취와 성폭력 산업구조가 크게 이제 우리나라의 디지털 성폭력 사건 중에 하나가 될 수 있겠고.
Page for mere adult content, these rooms were categorized into sections. Almost every sinful thought that could be organized was found there: torture, blind games, child exploitation, the list never ends. But this haven for monsters had a price for each entry. Members were allowed to each chat room only at the expense of 3 wishes. Number 1. They will be required to share all their government details and personal ID information. Number 2. A video of their family member or relative. The more graphic the video is, the better chances of getting in. And lastly, number 3. A picture of their own self showing their privates. Access to these chat rooms was granted to only men. Gotham's room was brought to life through this bizarre marketplace. Each room advertised its illegal content. Some were focused on underage minors, while others invited strangers for live action. Rooms shouting like Hawker's Market, "We have the most brutal torture rooms." Payment plans available for VIP customers. There were thousands of much alike chat rooms with victims who were either forced into making this content or were shot without their knowledge by a family member. The platform.
정도로 심각했습니다.
소라넷에서 있었던 성착취와 성폭력 산업구조가 크게 이제 우리나라의 디지털 성폭력 사건 중에 하나가 될 수 있겠고.
Family member. The platform had a perfectly designed ecosystem. Doctor's Room was one of the most prolific chat rooms out there. They had an exclusive content list with a simple propaganda. Everything that you can possibly imagine can be found down here. But there was one catch. These rooms were exclusively made by members only. The price of entry was at $700,001, which is roughly set at about $526. These blood contracts were designed in this way to prevent snitchers from exposing their business. Once you're in the Gotham, there's no way out. Journalist Kim Won was one of the first to expose the case. He was handed down an email from his boss asking him to report on the issue ASAP. The mail had a Telegram link attached to it stating the gory details of the Gotham room. It read that a high schooler was distributing underage adult content along with the IP address of the offender and their address. What reporter Kim misjudged as just another spycam lead, which was roughly common around South Korea, turned out to be over 9,000 members with an explicit category list that grimly displays true horror. It was unlike any other media that he had ever come across. Kim didn't need access to a VPN or any password confirmation. Just at the touch of a link, he was directed to the 6th largest downloaded app on the internet that was widely available for any possible users. He published the content of the case in hopes of reaching out to a wider audience for help. Maybe it will encourage more victims to come forward, or the least attract a call for immediate lawful action. As reporter Kim was waiting with his email wide open for any possible leads to pop up, the chat rooms started flooding crazy. Watchman, referencing the original Batman series, was the administrator of Gotham chat rooms. Minutes after the article was published, details of Mr. Kim were made public in the chat rooms. Watchman introduced a new event: hunt reporter Kim down. People knew his address, work details, family, and social media within seconds. The event demanded his birth date, social security number, and family members' ID information. And the grand prize of the said event was one personalized slave of choice. Kim had nothing on him until he found one single email. An anonymous sender named Joker tells him that he needs to look for the doctor and they can help him. Being backed up with no choice left, he agrees for the meetup with another colleague. The plan was to meet right in front of a subway station, with him wearing a black puffer jacket and Joker wearing white. It was quite a reckless move, but it worked. The guy was a teenager with almost baby features. Once confronted by both journalists, Joker denied having any wrong intentions in approaching them. He confessed that he was introduced to the chat rooms by a friend of his. The female victim, who was a friend of Joker, came out to him asking for help. Much like the doctor's previous victims, she was added to a random doctor's chat room where her private pictures, numbers of her family members, address, and even school details were leaked in front of hundreds of people. After receiving a video, they were sent out to a VIP chat room where the victims weren't allowed to participate. These doctors' rooms had a waiting area where people would join in to find their ideal taste. The content will be filled with teasers and a trailer with short descriptions of the original content. After going through the membership process, they will be allowed to choose a room of their choice. The victims in Doctor's chat were branded with his name. Each of these videos would either be watermarked the doctor, or the girls would have his name written over their unclothed bodies in bold black letters. In VIP rooms, these will up a notch by victims carving their skin with Doctor's slave written on it. The signature trademark of his character was made to prove his dominance, along with another sign. At the start of each video, the girls would lift their pinky fingers begging for forgiveness as they were forced to smile. Joker explained to the journalists how the tiered system worked in 3 categories. Hard rooms started at $187, medium was $450, and exclusive VIP rooms from $1,200. There were estimated to be tens and thousands of rooms, and admins would simply delete one and make another, like a marketing chain. Only half of the viewers were accounted to be South Korean, while the remaining were foreigners from across the world. The issue with the system was viewers kept getting bored, and to keep them entertained, the menu was refreshed with more gore content. Bugs, knives, sharp objects, the list was beyond any limitation. Victims were called out as slaves and performed tasks that were like a betting system. The doctor was losing his popularity, trying to up his game at every end with just one single call. What more? The insatiable sadistic nature of the audience was introduced to VIP rooms. Viewers who could afford it had access to the personalized video chat room where they could request any demands, psychologically abuse the victims with slurs and name-calling, and even go up to the extent of asking them to brand themselves. But unfortunately, soon the audience got tired of these as well. The doctor introduced a new game. The addresses of the said slave would be shared with an exclusive member who can go and watch the victim at any time they want. The members would be alerted by a new menu update: trenchcoat time. Victims would be forced to wear nothing but a trench coat and walk around their neighborhood, when any of the VIP members could just pull up next to them, humiliate, or even R-word them by dragging them into their cars. The tasks were upscaled to an even more horrific state, and once that became a routine, the intensity was heightened again. There were motel rooms introduced to these members with live shows that would record groups of men R-wording a victim. Meanwhile, journalist Kim Won was busy tracking down the doctor while his published article was booming in Hankyoreh, which is a famous news site in South Korea. The success of the article, rather than fishing out any leads, gained more popularity in the chat rooms. The interested viewers were only looking in to find the Telegram link. The business in Gotham room doubled up in size, with reporter Kim being the joke of the town. The doctor had hired employees underneath him to tackle the surge of the huge audience vending to them in his waiting rooms. This unusual promotion urged many other Gotham room admins to do the same, where they would reach out to the reporters in Hankiori, asking them to write an article releasing their details. Reporter Kim felt defeated by the aftermath of his article. Soon top broadcasting members from SBS and JTBC joined the chat rooms to get a scoop on Doctor's room. Twitter was blowing up, and for the Doctor, any publicity was good publicity. Money came flooding in as prices were all-time high. Viewers weren't interested in any other rooms anymore, they wanted top-shelf content. The Doctor was promoting his rooms with new descriptions as shown on the popular broadcasting network Hankiori. The producers were huddled up to know who the Doctor was. The language of his texts was quite misleading. In some sentences he would sound like a teenage boy, while in others he spoke like someone in their late 50s. The producers in SBS would receive a note from the Doctor himself, which read that if any video regarding his details was to be aired, a woman would kill herself in front of the studios and blood would be on their hands. The chat rooms have now started a new method of branding. Instead of the Doctor's name, the victims would have reporter Kim's first victim written on them as they were forced to bend and pose for the camera. Every crossing minute the victims kept multiplying, while the entire team of Hankiori Media was searching through each picture to find at least one hint that could help them save the victims. New victims were brought down to the channel, blaming the networks and media house producers, with their names written on each of them. Regardless of the threats, SBS went forward with their live telecast, and fortunately, the police were able to track down the victim's location just in time. But this too was a small win. With each new article and news that was being published, one of the victims' identities and videos would be leaked on the internet. Forgiveness meant nothing to them at that point, they knew it was coming. One of the victims reached out to the producers, stating how she was recognized by a stranger on the street. The man blatantly asked her if she was the same girl who was on the video. The fear that each victim had to live with while continuing with their daily routine at jobs or school was unimaginable for them to grasp. God of Nth Room. The news reports on the Doctor sent out live footage of the conversations held between him and producers. In one of them, he would mention the name of God. The only true competitor that withheld the Doctor from being the best at his game was God. He was the creator of Nth Room and renowned for being a sadistic king. If Doctor did it for the money, God was simply in it for the fun of it. The Nth Room was the original maker of the chat rooms, which would later inspire other admins like the Doctor. The name referred to 9 categorized rooms that were available on their channel. They worked on the same mechanisms, but to a much more violent degree. People could choose almost anyone, a stranger, a colleague, a friend, a classmate, neighbor. And someone will track down her address and assault her while recording the whole incident without their knowledge. This video would be later shared in the chat rooms after adding them in along with their ID details and a picture of their front door. The victims would be forced to perform acts and meet up with their viewers in dark alleys and vans. Throughout the assault, they will be referred to as God's slaves, and after recording the act, the new video will be published in the chat room.
디지털 성폭력 사건 중에 하나가 될 수 있겠고, 그 다음에 웹하드 카르텔, 그리고 텔레그램 성착취 사건, 이렇게 굉장히 이제 큰 사건들의 분기점이 있었다고 생각하는데요. 훨씬 더 점점 가학적인 방식으로 변했고, 특히 텔레그램 성착취 방에서 나왔었던 키워드들은 노예, 능욕, 멸시, 가학, 이런 키워드들이 저희가 많이 읽어낼 수 있는 키워드였습니다. 그 여성을 괴롭히거나 혹은 고통스럽게 하는 것 자체가 그들이 즐기는 포르노그래피의 한 문법인 것이죠.
Details of victims who didn't follow his orders, and viewers can do as they please with them now. He had punishment systems, but also swore to protect the ones who abided by his rules. The branding was also something that he implemented on his videos that will be later copied by the Doctor. The violence of God's videos escalated quite quickly, from branding to carving slurs and then piercing or sewing needles through the flesh of their skin. In some of these videos, the victims would also be asked to hang something heavy to the string, which he would call the skin stretching technique. The Nth Room was at its peak during the time, and that's when God decided to retire himself from all of it. 11 months before the Doctor came in, God disappeared, leaving his chat rooms and 60 victims to be managed by the Watchmen. After weeks of tracking down and surveilling each video, police were finally able to get leads on who the Doctor might be. The Doctor had a cryptocurrency scheme of payment which he shared with the producers during a chat conversation. He knew he slipped through that lead. They were able to follow the bank and the money, which was transacted by multiple account holders and dropped off at a designated location. Police simply followed the money to lead them to the doctor. Reaching the home address to the suspect, they were met by an unusual sight. 24-year-old Choi Joo-bin was with his dad trying to learn how to ride a bike. The guy looked ordinary, almost innocent, but who they were looking at was the creator of over 60 chat rooms and hundreds of victims by the name of Doctor. In the interrogation room, he scoffs at the detectives and says he isn't the doctor, he can't be, he was simply a viewer in one of the chat rooms. He didn't even know that it was illegal and thought the girls were into it maybe. When Choi was asked about the $100,000 that were recovered from his room, he simply denied that it has anything to do with the case. After being pushed into a corner by the officers, he excuses himself to go to the washroom. Choi turns on the faucet and takes a last look at himself before slamming his head onto the sink. While he's bleeding profusely, he takes another blow on his head while detectives are pushing to break in through the door. In his last attempt, he took a pen and shoved it down his throat, hoping to make an end. Choi was taken to the hospital and most of his injuries were nothing severe. In the meantime, police were searching through his room to pick up any new lead that could make their case stronger. They come across Choi's second phone, which they unlocked with the found password written over his ceiling. They recovered over 90 victim details along with conversations held between him and God. The chat shared how God advised him to change the settings on his Telegram so that in case he's inactive for 10 days on any of the chat rooms, all the videos will be made public. In their terms, they wanted to go with a big bang and wanted to punish the victims before they left. They also found a brief history of how the doctor came into existence. At the age of 23, fresh out of the military, Choi Joo-bin admitted himself for height-growing surgery, which is an excruciatingly painful process. He was stuck in his room for almost a year-long recovery while he had to relearn how to walk, run, bike, and almost every basic activity. On March 29, 2018, he started picking out a new interest. Choi wanted to pay off his leg surgery debt and hence emerged the doctor's chat room over Telegram. He scanned and consumed all sorts of content, and once the monopoly of the nth room was left behind God, the doctor found the perfect opportunity to dive in and feed the starved audience. The reason for his vast audience profile was mainly due to his all-knowing omnipresence. Jay, who worked for the doctor, was a government employee who had access to every civilian ID information. It made his job quite easy as all he had to do was pick out a victim. Didn't matter who or where, in a few minutes he would have all the information he needed right on his desk. Every circle came to an end, and so did the nth room. Vigilantes on the internet were on a mission to expose the buyers of these said chat rooms. Information was spreading like wildfire. Digital analytics, who took care of cybercrime cases, were receiving calls from people asking them how to delete videos of the Telegram app. Naver, which is the official web search engine for South Korea, had trending searches on how to delete Telegram, nth room, delete nth room videos, and much more. While some netizens defended their actions as a simple act of curiosity, others were writing long apology letters over their social platforms. Many incidents of suicide cases were reported who feared getting exposed to their family. Soon after JTBC and SBS exposed the doctor's identity, the next threat came down to God. Hackers over the internet reached out to the police for help. They wanted to catch him for them. They followed the same bait as God and his disciples did. They fished him out using a link that tracked down his exact location and IP address. Police were able to hunt down Moon Hyung-wook, the infamous God, in the middle of a junkyard with almost 10 phones that were on him at the time. The custody of both 24-year-olds took the nation by surprise. 2 university students who were gifted with great academic records went down the path of inhumane hell. Netizens shared an estimated record that almost 1 in 100 men were part of the Telegram chat rooms. Moon Hyung-wook, formerly known as God, was arrested and charged in May and detained on May 12, 2020. His personal information was released on May 13. In April 2021, Moon was sentenced to 34 years in prison. An accomplice to Moon, On Sung-jin, revealed later on June 22, 2020. The doctor, Choi Joo-bin, was sentenced to 45 years in prison. The court argued that Moon didn't receive much financial gain from his acts, so his sentence has been reduced compared to Choi's. This was later reconsidered and Moon was charged with